All right, so now everybody should be able to see my tablet screen. Um, and I'm going to have the LG Sensor Connect app open. Let me know if you don't see it. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started now on the app demo. So what we have here is the home screen of the LG Sensor Connect app, and it's divided up into 4 sections, and you've got a little settings button in the upper right-hand corner. So if you click on the question mark in the top right corner, that's going to take you into the help section. And in the help section, you can find links to product documentation, such as the FAQ page, our catalog, cut sheets, installation manuals, so on and so forth. You can kind of think of the app as a hub of important documents. If you're looking to purchase some Android devices or USB on-the-go adapters, we've also linked those in here, so that you can use some of this to help you source some of those if you need to buy more. You can check the app version. You can check the Zigbee stick version. Let me plug mine in, actually. There you go. So when you plug your Zigbee stick in, the app will ask to access it. All right, we can see the version there. Contact info. If you need to open a ticket, maybe you had the app crash on you, or you're having issues with the system at all, you can file a ticket, and that'll go straight to our quality team. And we've also got a remote support app. We use TeamViewer. With TeamViewer, if you're out in the field, as long as you have internet connection, you can call one of us if you need help, and either Dave or myself can remotely log in from wherever we are. I'm in California. He's in New Jersey. We can remotely log into your device to help you if you're commissioning and having issues, or you simply want some live support while you're on site. And I'll go back home by pressing the home button at the top left corner. And next, I'll click on the little settings icon in the top right corner. And from here, you can enable logs. Logs are important for our developer to assess any issues you may have had with the app. If you called us and said, hey, the app is hanging, or it's not able to find this group that I was working on, enabling logs will show us everything that the app is doing and might point us to the direction of what the cause is. The second setting you can change is called the dimming level. So by default, the dimming level when you select a light is 0%. That's how we identify a light. So if you're looking in the room and you click on the light, it's going to shut that light off to 0. However, if you're commissioning a live site with tenants working in the space, you may not want the lights to go all the way off in the event that you identify somebody's office light. So you can actually move that up so that instead, when you identify a light, it'll only dim to one of these levels. There is a password for the commissioning section. It's a 4-digit password. By default, it's 4 zeros. But if you want to change that to a custom password, you can do that here. All right, back at the home page. So commissioning is the password-protected commissioning section. Manage is designed for facilities managers. It's got some shortcuts. Makes it really easy for facility managers to use so that they don't actually have to learn the full navigation of the app unless they want to, in which case they can just go to the project list and they will see their building in here. Software update, you probably won't need it too often. However, sometimes the app does have an update for the USB stick. Maybe we've improved the VLC capabilities, or we've enhanced our Zigbee communication speeds. So those would be updates like the Zigbee connector or VLC connector update. Firmware updates at the top are to actually update dongles and sensors in the building. So using the USB antenna, you would upload a firmware update file to it, and plug it into a power outlet, and the USB stick will actually automatically update all the lights that are within 130 feet. So it's a nice and convenient way to update lights in the field if perhaps there was a new code that we released a firmware to be compliant with, and now one of your buildings needs it. You can go back and update it yourself using the antenna. And the same goes for our wireless switches. You can update those as well if we do release a new version of the firmware that improves its functionality or behavior. And last but not least is the troubleshooting manager. So this will require that you already have a building commission. However, once the owner has his tablet and let's say that he's got a light off, they click on light off and, oh, all right, I accidentally pressed the wrong button here. Let me reopen it. So they'll hit the symptom and the app will take them through a series of questions, whether trying to troubleshoot the issue, telling them what steps to do. The same goes for some of our other categories here, such as the controls hardware, the programming, or the app itself. The app will walk you through some steps to take to try to troubleshoot that. All right, so now I'm going to go into commission. What I'm going to do is I'm going to commission one office. Right? I'm going to commission the 2 lights that I have here in my office. And as we go through these steps, feel free to stop me and ask any questions you have. It shouldn't take very long to go through this. I estimate about 15 minutes. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to take very long. If you do have a question, unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask away. So we're going to click on the commissioning button and we're going to enter our password. So the default is 4 zeros. And what we're presented with is an offline commissioning button and an import button at the bottom. The import button allows you to import an Excel file. All right, so if you have all of the room schedules and you have all of the barcodes and you want to enter them using Excel, you can do that. You can hit get the Excel import file and you can either share it to your email or save it on a tablet if you want to use a tablet that you're using to fill it in. Once you've populated it and you copy it back onto the Android device, you can import it. So here, for example, I have a couple of Excel files that were created for previous jobs. If I click on one of those and hit OK, what it does is it's going to import that Excel file and create a project for me. It created the building called Alisol USB. When I go into that, we're going to see all of the floors. And when we go into each floor, we're going to see all of the rooms. And when we go into the room, we're going to see all of the light barcode IDs. All right. So it's that simple to import an Excel file. I'm just going to delete it. And now I've got an empty project list. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically create the same thing, but we're going to do it from scratch. So we're going to go from within the app. We're going to click the offline commissioning button, and the instructions on the screen say to press the add button to create a new building. So just tap on the plus button, and you'll type in the building name. Something of that sort. Once you've added your building, you may want to add more buildings. I'm not sure how many you're going to be doing, but in this case, we've just got one building that we're commissioning. The instructions move to the bottom of the screen, and now it says to select the building. So we'll go in and select it, and now it's going to ask if I want to review the sequence of operation. So I'll go ahead and click yes, just to show you guys that the app comes with some presets. All right, we call them profiles. So we've got a preset for an open area, private room, meeting room, corridor, and warehouse. If you want to review and edit any of those, just select one, press edit, and you'll see the light levels and all of the other parameters that are preset for this profile. So for example, the private room has a max light level of 70, but Maybe the project you're at wants the max to only be at 50. So you can change that yourself. Get the middle and the minimum light level. You have fade rate control. You can change how quickly the lights fade in to the max level or how slowly they fade out to the minimum level. You can then click on the motion tab. You can enable or disable motion. You can also change the motion sensitivity. The higher the sensitivity, the smaller motion it can detect. The lower the sensitivity, the larger motion it requires. The dim down duration is how long the lights take to go from max to middle after no motion. So after 15 minutes of no motion, the lights would go down from 50% to 30. Then, after 15 more minutes, the lights will go from 30 to 0 in this case. You can adjust these timeouts to each be as long as 60 minutes or as short as 30 seconds. And as you can see, you've got the live graph that's updating dynamically to reflect how this setting will look. Then we'll click on the daylight tab. And once again, you can enable or disable the daylight sensor individually. And you can also limit how low daylight harvesting can go. So as I mentioned before, daylight harvesting only works when the lights are at the max level. The lights are at the max level because it sees occupants. So as long as there's occupants, the lights will be at max and daylight harvesting will be enabled. So we can limit it. We can either go as low as the middle, which allows the lights to dim down to 30% in this case, if there's a lot of daylight. Or if we don't want too much daylight dimming, we can raise that number so that it doesn't go too low. If you're happy with these changes, you can hit save. And now my private room has the settings that I just set up. You can also add a custom profile. Let's say, for example, you're at a school, so you need a classroom setting. And maybe classrooms need to be full bright with 50% middle with a longer timeout and maybe no daylight. So whatever customizations you want to make, you can make that and call it whatever profile name you want and then hit save. And now we have a classroom profile. When you add locations, you get to choose from these drop-downs. Or you can also make a custom one at the location as well. But this is more for you pre-planning the sequence of operation. All right, once we're done setting that up, we're going to go ahead and add a floor. So we're just going to go ahead and type first floor here. Now I do want to remind you there are no limits to how many floors you add. You can add as many floors as you want. So if you're in Dubai commissioning the Burj Khalifa, you can add all hundreds of the floors there. There's no limit to how many floors you can add. So now the instructions at the bottom say to select a floor. All right. So before I do that, I want to show you every line item that you see here has a menu to the right. If you click on that menu, you'll have some options. So you can, in this case, I can rename that floor or delete it. All right. We're going to go ahead and click on first floor, and now we're going to add a location. However, I want to show you guys the floor plan view. So perhaps I have a floor plan for the first floor. So what I'm going to do is at the top right corner, there's actually a map icon. If I click on the map icon, it's going to switch to what we call the floor plan view. So from here, the instructions have changed. It says to press the import button to add a floor plan image. So I'm going to select that. It's asking if I have a floor plan image to upload. I'll hit yes. And you can either use your camera to take a picture of one. So let's say there's a fire exit plan. You can take a picture of the fire exit plan. Or if you have a print out of the floor plan, you can take a picture of that. Or if you have an image of the floor plan on your device, you can go to your gallery. And in this case, I was actually recently at the Broncos Stadium doing a training there, so I'll use the floor plan that I got from there. All right, so you get the floor plan, and now you crop it. So the cropping is done with the red outline, and that grid that you see over it is how you're going to color in those locations. If the grid is too big for the small image, you can increase the grid scale on the right by moving that slider up. Once you get a good grid scale, and you're happy with it, you can leave it there. And if the image is also too dark, you can increase the brightness. All right, then we hit save. And now we have a floor plan image in the background. And I can quickly toggle back to the list view in the top right corner by clicking the list button. And then toggle back to the map view by clicking the map icon. All right, now at this point, what the app wants me to do is to add a location. So it says to press the add button to create a new location. So we're going to go ahead and press add, and we'll type that location that we see there called LG Demo. Press OK. Now it's going to want you to color in on the floor plan where that location is. So it says step 1, select the empty grid for LG Demo. So you can start selecting the grid like this. You can color it one by one, or you can hold the opposite corner to quickly shade in that whole area. All right, once you're happy with your shading, then you can press OK. And if you have more locations, you can continue adding locations. Something like that. All right, and if you don't like the color that the app chose automatically, you can press more, and you get a little menu button. If you press the menu, you can actually choose the color from here and press OK, and it'll change that color. All right, so essentially what we're doing, it's kind of like you would be highlighting a printout of the floor plan using actual highlighters. That's essentially what you're doing here. We're just highlighting the rooms and how we want to divide them. So now we're going to go ahead and click on LG Demos, for example, and it's going to zoom into that area. And now we're looking at the location, all right? So similarly, it says to press the add button to add the device icons. So we're going to go ahead and press add. And we're going to choose the device type. We're going to add a light. And then register, we have 3 options. We have VLC, which I talked about earlier. You can also scan the barcode stickers with a barcode scanner, or you can manually enter the text. I unfortunately have an old fixture, so I don't have VLC on me, so I'm going to have to enter the text manually. All right, so now you're just going to choose somewhere on the grid where you want to add a light. So I'm going to put the first light, let's say, over the coffee counter, and I'm going to type in the ID. And it's only 5 digits. We'll press OK. So what I just did there would have been done automatically with VLC if I was standing underneath the light. I wouldn't have had to type anything in. And then we'll add another light just over here in the center. All right, when we're done, we press OK. So now we've finished registering everything in offline mode. All right, none of this was commissioning. This was just planning in offline mode. All right, we registered the building, a floor, some locations in the floor, and some lights in the location. So we're going to go ahead and press next. And before we leave, the app is asking us to set the profile for this location. So if you wanted to choose any of these, you could, and you'll see the settings changing underneath. Once you're happy with which profile to choose, you press save. Then it's asking if you wanted to set a master. If you're not sure which light is a master, you can skip it. And now the app is going to give you some shortcuts. We can either go back to the project list to start a new building, or go back to the building to start a new floor, or go back to the floor to start a new location, or we can save and exit, or go commission this location now. So we're going to click go commission this location now. And now at the top of the screen, you'll see it says online commissioning. Now we're online, and the button to the right says offline if we want to toggle back to offline. There's a few more buttons at the top. We've got an on-off button. We've got a test mode button, and we see the open area button, which is the profile. If I switch to the list view, those top buttons stay the same. However, the buttons below it are only move or delete. Moving a light is if you want to move it from one location to another. Deleting it would simply factory reset that light. But from the grid, we also have more and edit, which is for the grid, for the floor plan. So from here, what we got to do is we got to commission these two gray barcode icons. All right, so we're going to press commissioning, and we're going to adjust our range. So we can max it out in this case. Press OK. And we've got two commissioning types. We've got regular building commissioning or commissioning with the LPCS. That's that station with 21 ports on it. And then the app asks if you only want the app to commission the two lights that are registered, in this case the two barcodes that I added, or if you also want it to be able to find new lights that may not be in here. So there might be hallway lights or any lights within 130 feet. So if you only want to look for the lights that are in the room you're in, you leave it to registered devices only and press OK. So now it says that only the registered devices are going to be searched. All right, so it already found my two lights, and it's going to compare the lights that it found with the registered barcode IDs. If they match, it's going to automatically stop the search and finish. If it didn't find all two of the barcode IDs, then it would continue searching until it's found them all. So it found the lights, and it noticed that one of the lights is a dongle and the other one is a sensor. So it's telling me that in order for the group to work properly, I've got to set the sensor as a master. If you had multiple sensors, I suggest setting the sensor that's in the average space, probably in the middle, as the master so that the daylight harvesting is a little bit more neutral. So we're going to select the master. All right. And so at this point, we're done commissioning the lights. And now I can turn the lights off and on. I can also press test mode. And I can also move the dim slider up and down. This gives you a chance to see those lights at a different light level. In case you're not happy with how they turned out, you can move this around to see if perhaps you can go dimmer or if you should increase it in the event that you're chasing foot candle requirements. If we enable an occupancy sensor test, it sets a 20-second timeout. So what you would do is you would step out of the room, and in about 30 seconds, after not seeing you, the lights will turn off, and then you enter the room again, and the lights will turn back on via motion. The same goes for the daylight sensor test. If you enable it, you can shine a flashlight at the sensor, and you'll begin to see the lights dimming. And then if you cover the sensor, you'll see the lights begin to brighten back up. When you're done with the test mode, you can press OK, and the lights revert back to their default setting. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to commission a switch. So since we already commissioned the registered devices, when I press commissioning this time, and I'll leave the range the same, and I'll leave commissioning selected, it's not going to ask me if I only wanted to look for registered devices, because there's no more registered devices to look for. Now it's only going to look for new devices. If it finds a new light, it's going to create a new list called unidentified. In the event that those lights belong somewhere else, we would go to that list and identify them. So press OK, and I wake up the switch. and the switch is found. However, when you're commissioning a switch, you don't need to program the switch. You just need to find it. The switch doesn't take any settings. It simply controls the location settings. All right, and when we're done, we can hit stop. And since I have a 2-zone switch, it's asking me if I want to set up the second zone. I'm going to skip that for now. And so we'll see up here that we've got 2 switch icons. One has a 1 over it, and the other has a 2. That little number in the corner is the switch group number. And as you can see with the lights also have a number 1 above them. That means that those 2 lights belong to switch group 1. And switch group 2 is essentially not controlling any lights at all, unless we decided to set it up. If we did want to set up the switch groups afterwards, we can press more, hit the switch menu, go to the settings, and the first page that you see here is actually a virtual switch that can actually control the lights. You're actually testing the switch here. And the bottom 2 don't do anything. You can change the switch to be from auto on. Auto on is that you can turn the lights manually off with the switch, in which case only the switch can turn the lights back on. However, if the lights turn off with motion, the lights can also automatically turn back on with motion. If we set it to manual on, then it's vacancy mode, in which case only the switch can turn the lights on. In addition, you can set an expiration period for the switch's manual override. What that means is that if I turn the lights off with the switch, the sensor is actually disabled at this time. But if I want the sensor to automatically be re-enabled so that tomorrow morning when I walk back into the space, the sensors see me and turn the lights on, then I can set an expiration period. So in this case, let's say that I set it to 1 hour. That means that I'll turn the lights off with the switch and the lights will stay off for at least 1 hour. After 1 hour, if they see motion, they will turn back on automatically. Then if I go to the second page of the switch settings, here we see the switch group. So I've got switch group 1 highlighted, and I see both of the lights are highlighted. Then at the top, I'll click switch group 2, and I'll see that none of the lights are highlighted. That means that none of these lights are part of switch group 2. If I choose one of the lights, like that, and I just highlighted the dongle, now the dongle is part of switch group 2, and the sensor is part of switch group 1. If I press OK, it's going to group them, and it will also unset the master because I've just separated them. So now we've got 2 switch groups where the top 2 buttons control one light and the bottom 2 buttons control the other light. The last thing you can do with the switch is called a schedule. So once again, we'll press more, and we'll press the switch menu button, and we'll go to switch schedule. From here, there's 2 actions you got to take. The first action is to synchronize the time. The time sync tells the switch what time it is. It synchronizes the time of your tablet, in my case, 10:06 a.m. In your case, it's 12:06 p.m. You hit time sync, and you wake up the switch, and the switch has now been programmed with the correct time of the tablet. Next, we can either load schedules from another location that we've already done. In this case, we haven't done any, so it's empty. Or we can add a schedule. So when you add a schedule, it looks like adding an alarm on your phone. You choose a time. You choose the days to repeat. So let's say every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. We want the lights to do what? We can choose a profile from the drop-down list. Maybe in the morning we wanted to use the open area settings. We hit save. All right, so now we have a 7 a.m. schedule to turn the lights on at 80% with a middle 40 and an off of 0. But maybe at 7 p.m., we want the lights Monday through Friday to dim, to go down to the private room settings. And we hit save. And when it's saving, you just tap on the switch to wake it up. So now we have a 7 a.m. bright setting, a 7 p.m. dim setting, and now we'll add one at midnight, Monday through Friday, to turn the lights completely off. And next, we'll do a weekend setting that maybe at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday, the lights should come on to the corridor setting, for example. And then a weekend off. All right, so what these schedules are going to do is they're going to trigger at the specified time on the specified days. But that's it. So what that means is if someone comes into the office between midnight and 7 a.m., the lights will be off. But if they tap on from the switch, the lights will turn back on. You can manually override it with the switch. And so we're looking at the list view of the schedule right now. If you want to look at the week view, you can actually hit that same map icon, and it'll show you kind of a schedule, so that you can visualize how the schedule is going to work between Monday and Sunday. All right. And then we'll go back to the location in the top left corner. All right, so we're finished commissioning. Now, if we wanted to back up the commissioning, we can click back on the project tab. That's the tab, the far left tab. And we'll press the menu button of the building. And if we hit save, it just saves it to the tablet. But if you hit share, you can back it up, right? You can email it, or you can save it to Google Drive. So if we choose email, it'll attach the file to an email, and you can email it back to yourself so that you can save it. If you need cloud storage, we're more than happy to give you free cloud storage through Google, and you can back up all of your commissioning files on a Google Cloud folder that we can provide you with. Now when we go back to the home page, so commissioning is done, you've left the site. Now the facility manager takes over the tablet. When they go to manage, let's say they wanted to change the profile of one of their locations. They select their building and select the location. It automatically opens the profile page. They can select a new one, hit save. Then the app automatically kicks them back out to the shortcut list. So it's a quick in and out. If they wanted to test the location, same deal. It'll just automatically open up the test mode. And when they're done testing, it sets the lights back and kicks the user back out, or supposed to move the user back out to the shortcut here. So these shortcuts are just so that the facility manager knows quickly what the app can do and to help them alleviate any issues. If they simply want to manually navigate their building, they can go to the project list and view their building this way. All right, so they do have the capability of manually looking at things. However, when they press the menu button here, they're going to be limited to what they can do. So, for example, they don't have a delete button. They can't delete this light. They can only move it, right? So we only want them to manage what's been commissioned. We don't want facility managers to be able to delete lights or commission new lights. That would be a commissioning charge or commissioning service callback. It's not to stop anybody from giving the facilities manager the commissioning password, but in case they want to be the gatekeeper, maybe the password is only limited to one person. So now we can go into the troubleshooting manager and click on a symptom here. We'll choose our building, choose our floor, choose the room that's having the issue, hit next. Now the app is going to ask you which type of product is it. Is it a tropper, a high bay, a downlight? So we're going to choose tropper. We're going to hit OK. Now it's going to give you some steps to take to try to resolve the issue. Step 1, disconnect the dongle. Did the light come back on? If it didn't, it's going to say to check the voltage. Is the voltage being supplied to the driver between 120 and 677? If it is, check the wiring, so on and so forth. Then it'll ask you to check the LED board connection. Maybe it came loose. Maybe the soldering came undone. All right, and then if none of those steps fix it, then it suggests you replace the driver and to contact your sales rep. So the troubleshooting manager should be helpful for facility managers and electricians alike in the event that they are troubleshooting a live system of ours. All right, so that's it. I think I literally just finished right at the 12:15 mark for you guys. Any questions about the app? Anything you would like me to repeat or go back over? All right, doesn't sound like there's any questions. In case you were speaking, you might be on mute. But now that we've wrapped up the live demo, what I'm going to do next is simply, so the training is done. What I do want to ask is if anybody was interested in more information about becoming a service agent for our service network, you can stay on the line and we can talk a little bit more about that. If you've got to run and you want to make it back at a later time, just shoot me an email. I will send this training information. I'll stop the recording here. We won't record our discussion about services, since that's not necessarily training. That's just more an open discussion. So I will stop the recording here.